Sounds good.
Yeah. Start the recording.
How come everybody thinks if you buy back or if you abandon a game, you're mad? It's just totally assuming something about
Why are people
somebody's.
flaming you about abandoning a game?
No, it's. I was playing a previous game and I was Tinker, and there was a fight going on, so I bought back because I wanted the experience from the fight, from like killing people in the fight. I was it was a choice. I wasn't mad, but then people were just like rager, and then I was mad. Because it's like, I hate when people are making these assumptions and they're wrong. That actually does make me mad.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, oh, you're so mad. It's like, no, but now I'm mad because you think I'm mad.
It's
And
true.
you're dumb for thinking that I'm mad. Like, buying back is a fucking mechanic in Dota. You know, doesn't mean you're mad and raging. Also, somehow people know it's me on my Smurf. I have the profile private and everything, and people are like, oh, Jenkins. What the hell?
Probably because they can just smell you. They smell the stench of your Batrider spam, your Beastmaster. That's all you play.
That's not true. That's not true at all. It's always the negative people too. It's not the positive people. It's the people who are flaming. Like, oh, Jenkins is so bad. Nice videos. It's like, what the fuck? How do you even know it's me? My profile is private. Every single thing on this. Oh man, I don't get it. There's no way. And I asked somebody, and they're like, "You got to change your quick buy." It's like, dude, if you're remembering what my quick buy is in order to flame me, you probably need to do something else with your life. That is not a good investment of your time. To be like, that's Jenkins Dota's quick buy. Fuck this guy. Like, when you're on the internet calling people racist slurs and saying,
are you talking about Tralf?
It might be Tralf. I don't know who it was, but it was somebody else on a Smurf who was being very racist and toxic.
It's probably Tralf.
And telling me that Jenkins Dota's shit, nice videos, and I should change my quick buy if I want to be private. It's like, I didn't think people would memorize my fucking quick buy and hunt me down in games and call me racist slurs, dude. That's a pretty weird thing to assume that's going to be done in your life, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty fucking weird.
It's like.
But that's Dota for you.
It's like Hamza Akmal coming into the chat and being like, wow, I really like Elevated's videos. Wait, what MMR is Elevated? Oh, he's only 4K? Well, I don't like his videos anymore, even though they helped me get better.
Who did that? What is Elevated's MMR?
That's right, I'm calling you out, motherfucker. I know you like my content.
No, let me tell you something. Let's all talk about Donnie's insecurity towards his MMR.
Yeah.
Let's get this out of the picture just right from the get-go. Everybody, Donnie lost like 8 calibration games. His MMR is really low, and now he's really insecure about it.
Oh, yeah.
I also lost 9 calibration games. My MMR is really low, but I don't feel insecure about it. Now, why is that, Donnie?
That's because...
Why do I not feel insecure and you do? What's the difference? Is it because I'm wearing this winter coat and it's protecting me from the negativity?
But are you wearing this alchemy shirt? Because I don't think you are, and I'm the only one who's wearing it because...
I was going to order one.
I made it.
I was going to order one. But,
it's the only piece of merchandise we have.
There's this... Do we even sell it? There's a separation between somebody's ability to coach and somebody's ability to gain MMR.
Exactly.
That is the most important thing. So... But you defending yourself is giving value to the argument, is the thing. When you defend the MMR doesn't fucking matter. The MMR is another issue, and you're dumb for losing all those calibration games, and so am I.
Yeah,
that's a different issue than making content and coaching. Because Kips is coaching complexity right now at Katowice, and she's like 2.5K or something like that.
It's amazing what connections will get you. And hard work.
She's connected, but she's also a good coach. She's really good with the psychological stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's what most people need.
I think we're pretty good at that. In Dota, yeah.
That's what most people need in Dota, to be honest.
Is it the MMR or the metal? I would assume it's the metal that you're insecure about, because you fucking plebeian non-immortals just see metals. But for me, it's MMR. If I'm below, I don't know, anything below like 6.5K, and I feel like I'm a moron because... So there are some people at 6.5K that are complete like jackasses, you know. So
right.
I feel less than them, especially when you're obsessed with the game and can't stop playing.
Right.
It's like starts becoming your. I got a dislike. There's a dislike on the video. What on earth? What? Why?
On the stream.
Come on, it's just one dislike. Let's get those. There's a lot of Dota player jackasses. That's
You should probably tweet this shit out.
What can I say about the new upcoming Hero Mars? Well, I actually got a tour of the Valve offices the other day, and I got to play Mars.
Complete bullshit is being spoken right now.
It's not. This is all accurate. 1 versus 1 loser has to shave their head. I'd probably lose a 1v1 right now. I can't lane very well with the. We got a lot of upvotes now. Thanks, boys. They gave me a Myers Barry. Nice one, John Callahan. Dude, John Callahan's always on point. There's not been a single point where John Callahan hasn't been killing it.
Jenkins is the Mark Zuckerberg of Dota 2.
What does that even mean?
I know. I'm not totally sure how to interpret that, but you know.
Do
whatever.
I look like an alien? I wish I had the money that Mark Zuckerberg had. I would take all of the fucking alien aspects of that guy if I could have the money.
If you could snoop on everyone's private data so you know who the Smurfs were and who the feeders were so you could sell their data.
You would never run out of like masturbatory material if you're Mark Zuckerberg, because you just have access to everything, you know.
It's true.
If you're into like dads, you know, the bear type of guys, if you're into like, I'm actually not going to continue down this line of thought because I was going to get really dark, but yeah, you know, he's probably J and his D to some dirty stuff. Let's be real.
All right. Well, on that note, we've got some peeps in here. Let's go ahead and throw the intro in there, and then we'll get started with Alchemy Answers. So, yeah. Welcome everyone to Alchemy Answers, episode 21. This is the 21st edition of us answering your amazingly great questions. You thought I was going to say stupid, didn't you? But they've actually been extremely good questions, pretty much exclusively. And this week, we don't have a ton of questions from our patrons in the Discord, so we will be able to take quite a few from the chat. So once we cue that, feel free to put your questions in chat, and we will we'll roll through them as well. Thanks as always for watching.
All right, so we have RFX. As usual, it's always RFX with the deep questions. What were the most surprising heroes you saw at Katowice today? Leshrac showed up a few different times in a few different roles. What makes a hero like Leshrac show up with what seems like no direct reason? Same with CM, honestly. So I haven't watched it. I watched a little bit of the reruns, but I woke up kind of late, so I didn't actually catch the majority of the tournament. So I don't know, Donnie. What do you think? What are the heroes being picked?
Actually, let me bring up Dota Buff. I watched a decent amount of it, but it's kind of at a weird time slot, so I was like catching the second half of the day, and kind of half watching on it because I was working on a video as well. But let me look at. Hi, Catherine. I'm streaming right now. I'll come say hi in a little bit. I love you though.
All right, we got Ember Spirit, we got Monkey King, we got Sven with a 0% win rate. Holy shit. Crystal Maiden, Lifestealer, Pangolier, Shadow Shaman, Nature's Prophet. I think a lot of the time when it comes to these tournaments, what you're seeing is essentially what players have been experimenting with in pubs.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I said this in one of my recent videos where I was making a claim that wasn't so bold, like AKA I was saying that Lifestealer is overrated and that people will have answers for him and the meta will change essentially. And the reason that I was able to make that claim and not have it be so bold is because there wasn't a LAN on the current patch.
Yep.
So this just is the first LAN on the patch, and what we're seeing is the amalgamation of all of the players' ideas from playing pubs in this patch. So if you look at pubs in the different regions, Monkey King is being picked a lot. Ember Spirit is being picked a lot. Pangolier is one of the most prolific offlaners right now. Nature's Prophet is being picked in almost every single role. But competitively, in the last tournament, these heroes weren't being picked. So that's basically all that is, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you can actually kind of see some trends. Like people have clearly figured out how to play against Sven. It's 0-8 so far. You know, that's fairly indicative. Like you don't want to read too much into the percents. You know, if it's like 3 games at a 33% win rate, that's a little bit too small of a sample size to look at. But I mean, 8 games is also pretty small, but the fact that Sven, a hero that has been winning like all the time for the last 2 or 3 months, is now 0-8 as one of the most picked heroes at Katowice, it's pretty clear that this hero is not good in the role that they're playing him in right now, which I think is mostly support, considering his 1.16 KDA. It's just not doing anything. Grimstroke also 0-6. Like these are 2 heroes that have been picked pretty much in the first phase for the last 3 tournaments, and now they're not winning at all. So that's just kind of something interesting to note. I think that the coolest stuff that I saw was, I mean, I'm really a huge fan of Pangolier. I think that looks really good. But also, offlane Bounty Hunter was being played a decent amount. And I think that that's really cool. And if you watched our meta report video that I just put out, Bounty Hunter has one of the few mechanics that allows him to basically just manifest gold out of nothing, which is something that is very, very helpful in the current meta because of the fact that there's just less gold to go around on the map. So I think that this hero is going to be pretty prolific going forward until they nerf him, because he's definitely been overbuffed at this point. I think they just gave him like all this free stuff. It's like, oh, here's a crit. Oh, here's all this stuff. Oh, here's some more stuff. Oh, here's some more stuff. Oh, and he has really amazing talents too. So he's
hero's probably going to be my underrated. It might be up and coming by the time I make the Heroes of the Week, but I have a really good feeling about Bounty Hunter from pubs. It's stomping a lot, even as a support. Even as a support, this hero's ending up more farmed than like a lot of the cores on the enemy team, and I think it's due to what you said in your meta report. Like, there's just less sources of gold on the map. Bounty Hunter gets gold. Everybody else gets less gold, but Bounty Hunter is still getting gold in the same way that he used to, which is just tracking and killing people, and that wasn't nerfed, but all of the other sources of gold has been nerfed. And then also, like, Bounty Hunter in general, and just with the track, like, it's a fighting hero, and fighting is better because the fighting gold didn't get nerfed. So a lot of reasons. Then, of course, like you said, the buffs. I think probably by the time that I make the Heroes of the Week, Bounty Hunter will be up and coming, because I think people are realizing that it's good. And I feel similarly about Razor. I feel like Razor is another one of those heroes that people are kind of realizing.
Dude, he can actually farm really fast. His unstable current is ridiculous. You can actually clear creep waves like really, really quickly now.
Yeah, he's really good against like all of the cores in this patch, like Lifestealer, Ursa, like in the lane and in the game. Yeah. I think that hero is great.
I could actually see
good offlaner,
Ninjas in Pajamas winning the tournament, just because it feels like a lot of these heroes are kind of falling into their wheelhouse a little bit. Like Razor for Fata, Night Stalker for 33, Ace, like Meepo was picked today by Weehaw and it crushed. Like I think that we're also going to start seeing Alchemist picked quite a bit again, just because, again, it's a hero that just creates gold out of nowhere. And can be played in a pretty up-tempo style. Like, he basically makes your draft faster because he just creates gold for himself and for his team.
I've seen that hero do really well in pubs too. Like, completely obliterate. But once again, like, a lot of the time when it comes to these questions, we get anecdotal. But I feel like with Dota, there's so much to it, and the patches happen so fast that, like, there's nothing that we can do but get anecdotal. You know what I mean? Because you can only play so many games before the tournament comes out, and then there's just all of these games to look. I feel like from like patch to tournament, there's never enough time to analyze.
Yeah,
like,
not
you'll
really.
never know what the actual best hero. Alchemist could be the best hero in Dota, and just people have not figured out what the best timings are, what the best way to play it is. Like, for instance, I've been playing Pudge recently, and I've basically been copying Qpei's Pudge, the way that he plays it. And I've been obliterating. I was convinced that hero was dog shit for a long time, and there's a video coming out actually tomorrow on that. That will be top. Well, maybe we'll talk about it later. But the video's coming out tomorrow on Qpei's Pudge, and basically, like, playing Pudge in this way and doing very slightly different things compared to playing Pudge in the way that I was playing Pudge. I have seen a significant increase in win rate. And by significant, I mean like up by 20% or something like that, from like 40% win rate to 60% win rate or
Wow,
higher.
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, in the games that I've been losing, I've still been ending them like 15 and something like I've been having really good games, just because like it's in Dota really like those small little intricacies where it's like, okay, instead of starting in this lane, I'm gonna fight this rune every time at level 1. And then boom, you have a good early game, which causes you to have a good laning stage, which causes you to have an even better mid game, and then like maybe that hero in the mid game, if they have a little bit better of a mid game, they crush, because Dota's just a snowbally game. So basically what I'm saying is like this alchemist hero, all it takes is to figure out one single thing to do on him that people aren't doing right now, and he could just blow every other hero out of the water. That's all it takes. Which, going back to it, is why we get anecdotal, because it's just Dota.
Yeah, and it's just kind of interesting because I mean, we've been talking about this question from RFX for a while, but I'm looking at the bans now from ESL as well, and Chen is up there just because Chen does one thing that no other hero in the game does, which is to allow your team to basically be in 2 places at once. But then the other high-level bans are Lifestealer and Chaos Knight. Both of these heroes, I would say, are kind of just like, they're almost just placeholders at the moment, because they're so easy to execute in any lineup pretty much that people are just like, well, let's get rid of these heroes just because like they're strong enough to be dangerous, and you can pretty much just throw them in to any lineup and it will be good. So people are taking them out quite a bit. But I think that Lifesteal and Chaos Knight will be replaced by a hero like Alchemist or something else that kind of comes out as being really overpowered in the patch. Because I don't think either of these are really overpowered. I think they're both good heroes, but they're not like completely broken.
Okay, so we have a follow-up question also from RFX. Hey, if anybody's a Patreon subscriber, by the way, and you want to ask questions directly to us, this is the last question that is from Patreon subscribers. So if you want to ask questions, you can put it in the Discord and we'll answer them. But essentially, RFX asks, follow-up to the previous question, Dazzle has a surprising 31% win rate so far through Katowice. What is causing a hero who is recently so strong to fall off in the pro scene? Kunkka also has a 37.5% win rate in 24 games. How much of this is the hero not working, and how much of it is the lower tier teams not being able to predict the meta changes? I would say, I mean, we kind of hammered in like the Katowice stuff, but in terms of the win rate of heroes just plummeting is basically because, once again, you have this amalgamation of all of these picks that people are picking in pubs, and in a particular meta, Dazzle is no longer going to be a strong hero. For example, consider Dazzle versus Lifestealer versus Juggernaut versus Sven. You don't care about Dazzle if you're these heroes, because you just purge the Q, or you use the Sven shield to basically make the damage like negligible from the Dazzle Q. So I'm not saying that's like exactly the counter to Dazzle. What I'm saying is basically what's happening is just the current set of heroes, plus of course a little bit of this is going to be the nerfs to Dazzle because he's been good for a while, but basically that's just very good against Dazzle. And that's why I think Lifestealer is not a bad hero, right? Like, I think Lifestealer is good, overrated, but only overrated if people start picking counters to him. Lifestealer is not overrated if people continue to not counter the hero.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, if you're picking, you know, anti-mage or something like that, and people just aren't picking stuff that's good against it, like people just pick a bunch of late game, like delay the game heroes against an anti-mage, you're going to get just completely pooped on.
Right.
Like, you have to actually run at him.
I've been playing a lot of support Ursa, and I basically realized that a lot of the reason that the support Ursa was working was because everybody's just building a Midas and not worrying about trying to like end the game early. So I'm just playing this hero who essentially scales to become a core and being allowed to do that by the enemy team. And then that kind of made me realize that, holy shit, supports that can just scale into the late game are going to be better right now because everybody's building a Midas and going late. So like if you can be an effective support in the early game and then go late, you're going to be a better support than something like, I don't know, I was gonna say Crystal Maiden, but that hero has gotten buffed enough that she's great.
Yeah.
But if you have like a strictly early game support essentially versus a decent early game support, and then a hero that becomes a good late game support, and scales into a core, that hero is going to be better, the latter.
Yep.
Just because everybody's going late game. what do you think? Jorge asks, what do you guys think of Brood right now? I get to steal all the early creep camp around mid and draw a lot of attention. I think Brood is a good hero. I think the changes to her, like specifically the change to her level 10 talent, where she now does 400 or whatever damage with the spawn spiderlings, is pretty incredible, especially considering the cooldown on that spell has been decreased. So it's hard to be useless on a hero that just has a 400 damage spammable nuke that also spawns spiders, and also that hero farms incredibly fast against any hero in Dota. My only concern with Broodmother is that I think Monkey King's really good. I think Sven is good. I think Pangolier is good. I think Elder Titan is good. I think there are a lot of counter picks to Broodmother that are currently good in the game. Timbersaw is good. People are picking Timbersaw.
Yep.
So it's like Brood was always a little bit better of a hero when you could force people to pick these like off the wall shitty heroes by virtue of having a Broodmother. But now it's like, do you really a lot of the time people just pick a Timber because they just want a Timber. Like they'll just second to last pick a Timbersaw against very little strength heroes. It's just because it's a decent Timber game. It's a stable pick. Let's just group up around this guy. So that's the problem with Brood for me. But I think in the previous patch when they changed it such that she has the talent changes, I believe like a couple of other changes, her win rate did go up. She's sitting at a pretty decent win rate right now. So I think Brood's a good hero. It's just inconvenient for her that she's countered by a lot of the current meta heroes. And Jorge says he has a loss replay ready for Thursday. This is a first.
Thank God.
This from Jorge. He loves to flex.
Cool. So is that the rest of the Patreon?
Yeah, that's it for now. So we can pull them out from chat.
Let's open it up for chat. If you have a question for us, feel free to drop it in chat now, and we'll start reading them and looking at them.
Hamza's still asking about your MMR. What was your MMR before reset, Donnie? Let's put this out there. Let's put this in an Alchemy Answers.
Sure.
I'll tell you what my MMR was, what it is now. We can kind of vent a little bit. So if you guys also lost all your calibration games, we can just kind of feel the feels together. So Donnie, what was your MMR?
I think it was like 4,700.
Okay, and what is it now?
Like 4,100.
And how many calibration games did you lose?
6.
And how many days did your calibration game span?
2. I started out.
What did we say?
I started out 3-0. I started out 3-0, and then I just went 1-6 on the next day.
Oh my god! What did we talk about?
I mean, you know, both you and I know that we like to give advice and then not follow it ourselves.
This is accurate. This is definitely accurate. I've been getting a lot of people in Immortal games being like, "Dude, thanks so much for your videos. I've gained so much MMR," and they're just like 1,000 MMR above me, and it's like, fuck, man. Well, I should be following your advice, dude. But yeah, you know, in reality, it is pretty hard to follow your own advice. Being disciplined about following advice and like intellectually understanding that something is a good idea. Two completely polar opposite things. Having discipline is requires you to not be a man-child, and of course, for both of us, that's difficult.
Yeah. All right. Let's actually look at some of the questions from chat.
Okay. You don't want to shit on my MMR?
No, I just want to actually answer some questions.
Okay, well, you just want to.
I'm just excited to talk about Dota today because I actually got to watch Academy today.
I know how it is, man. I got you.
So Junkbox asks, with the changes in this current patch, where do you think Ice Frog is trying to move the meta?
That's a good question. A lot of the time I do think about that, but I haven't thought about that from like a. I mean, it's strange to me to say this, but it kind of seems like he wants to have a more like fighting oriented meta, just because like the changes to all of the gold. Maybe this is just an idea that's like currently sitting in my head because I just watched Donnie's meta report video, but it does seem like he wants people to fight more, which is just kind of strange because Dota has been a lot about fighting for a long time, but it's more so like it's been about fighting to contest the creeps. Yeah. And I feel like he wants to take a focus off of the creeps, which would make sense given that the focus has been on the creeps for the last year to 2 years. Like everybody's just using spells, fighting, doing these sick plays to just secure CS. That's literally all it's about. And the changes to the creeps would also indicate that that's what he wants, people to not focus so much on last hitting in the lane, which is cool. That's different. But
Yeah.
the weird thing to me, I guess, is the fact that you're trading fighting for the creeps to fighting to fight, and both metas are just still fighting. So it might actually just look the same. It might just look the same, except you just get gold from killing people instead.
Right. Yeah, I thought that he was trying to slow it down because it like for a while there it seemed like it was really easy to just like go high ground around 15 minutes, and it was like 2 death volley, and then there was more HP added to the towers and buildings, and then he obviously took away the gold from the creeps and has increased the jungle a little bit and has made denies slightly less punishing. 5% experience does not seem like it should make very much difference. But then if you actually think about it, the way things are going now, you have people who think that the game is supposed to be ending later because of these changes. And then other people are like, nah, we're just going to pick Lycan and Visage and just run at you because you think the game's supposed to end late, and you're picking like Tinkers and Caudles and Spectres and going Midas and stuff like that, and Lycan's taking your towers at 10 minutes. So I don't really know. I think that
it's really hard to say.
It does seem like things are going towards more of a fighting meta, but at the same time, it's like Dota's always kind of been in that place where if you want to fight, you can fight, but you can also like make those fights smarter by farming around like the other team and then forcing them to take bad fights through using farming like as a distraction, basically. I don't know. All right.
It's hard. I'd like to watch Katowice, and I mean, obviously that's cheating because it's like let's let hundreds of pros figure out what the meta is like, but it's hard for one person to figure it out. But in any case, Geoff, I'm mispronouncing that intentionally and then laughing at it. Rather than keeping one hero pool, do you think there's any merit to changing your hero pool regularly to focus on learning specific mechanics? Yes, there is merit to that. However, you will lose MMR from doing that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that people, I think that's a big misconception about learning, is that like in getting better your MMR will like strictly increase, but in the period where you're learning any concept, you should lose because you are trying to play heroes that exemplify that concept, and then you're not doing it well, but then you slowly learn and get better, and then you'll probably over focus too much on that concept and just do that and then lose due to other things, but then eventually it'll become instinctive for you, and then you'll win more and your MMR will go up. But there's always that period when you're learning a concept in Dota where your MMR will go down. So yes, there is merit to do that, but you have to understand that you're doing it to learn and not to gain MMR, and it's kind of like a long-term investment in your MMR rather than a short-term investment.
Yeah, you just have to separate yourself from the MMR, which is something that most people, including myself and Jenkins, struggle to do.
I've been pretty good at it lately. I don't really care that I'm lower rated anymore.
Yeah, that's good. You seem much happier for that.
I am gonna care if I'm low rated when I go back to Canada and I'm playing on 20 ping instead of 100, and I'm not playing on a laptop, and I don't have packet loss, and like when all of these possible excuses are gone, and if I'm still losing, then I'll be fucking pissed. That's when I'll be pissed off. But right now I feel like it's just my situation playing is so difficult that if I care, I will lose my mind. You know what I mean? It's too. I could probably win these games, and it's probably my fault on a lot of them. But it's like I can't emotionally attach myself to it because I would get too frustrated by like all of the extraneous stuff. That's at least like my which is why smurfing is great. I love playing on my smurf. I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Here's just a very easy question that I just want to answer. Why is Echo Saber bad on CK? It used to be good on CK because you could double crit, but now there's a cooldown on the crit, so you can't double crit, which basically just makes Echo Saber a lot less valuable. That's pretty straightforward.
That's it.
Spiros Kanalakis says, "Hello guys, I'm plucking my harvested backyard chickens right now, and hearing you makes it a tiny bit less crappy." That's awesome, man. Fresh chicken sounds pretty great to me.
I could go for some fresh chicken right now, actually. Dude, my brother-in-law, who might be watching this stream, and he's gonna be mad at me for saying this. He eats the chicken feet. He likes the chicken feet and the chicken hearts. The chicken hearts. So does my mother-in-law. They're all into eating this like weird food. I can't stomach that shit, man. Like when I was at the Moonduck house, we had like a Thanksgiving thing and we cooked a turkey. and they were so basically we live with one of Zyri's like friends from childhood named Carlo. He's this big meaty guy, like he's a fucking tank, right? He's super jacked, super into health, organics, natural stuff.
What are you
So
even talking about right
okay, so we had all of these natural people over, and they were like, we got to eat the organs. We can't let the organs go to waste. And holy fuck, I had the liver, a little bit of the liver, and that is like the most tame of the organs. It's not hearts, it's not beaks, it's not fucking feet or something like that. Ah, oh, Jesus Christ. It tasted exactly like turkey. The texture was exactly like turkey, but I could almost not swallow it just because knowing what it was that I was eating. It's all psychological, man. It's so fucked up. I'm sure chicken hearts and feet and gizzards and stuff are good, but it's like I can't get the image of just eating. I don't want to eat the thing that takes out the shit that is too gross to go into the stomach of the chicken. You know what I mean? The gizzard takes out the stuff that's so bad that it can't even go into the stomach of a chicken. This is a filthy animal, and the gizzard's like, oh, you can't eat that. That's too dirty. And people are like, that's the part I want to eat. Fuck that, man. I'm not eating that shit. I'm not.
I mean,
Jesus.
I agree. It's a logical decision to make.
That's super logical. Tell me that's like the most logical thing I've ever said. It's the part that takes out the stuff that's too bad for the stomach. And people are like, I want the stomach. Give me that piece.
All right, Jenkins, here's a question for you from Yale Francis Anthony Gregata. Sorry if I'm fucking up your name, but best offlaners to play against a Jug or Lifestealer lane aside from Weaver and Ursa.
Aside from Weaver and Ursa. Those are my like go-to picks. Weaver, Ursa. Some heroes that can like just get away from them and like kite them. Like any kiting hero is gonna be relatively good. Weaver, Ursa, Faceless Void if that was a good hero. Oh, Razor offlane, you build into like Tranquil's drums. People are doing Razor offlane. I would highly recommend that. Puck offlane is quite good because you don't get kited by those heroes and you just sit there and you just right click them. And then you have a silence eventually, so you can kill them. You basically want kiting heroes. Like the problem that I see in pubs with Jug and Nakes is that people are like first phasing Jug and Nakes, and then they're not getting countered. It fucking pisses me off beyond belief. It's like this guy is first picking a hero and he's having a free game. That doesn't make any sense to me. Just because people want to pick your Beastmasters and your Axes and your typical tanky offlaners like Sven. Dude, they love laning against Sven. Why do you think Sven has a 0% win rate at Katowice? Because Lifestealer hits him once and gains back half of his HP, man. So yeah, like Razor, Puck, we're going to see a whole new subset of offlaners to counter these like bullshit safe laners. I really think the offlane meta has not caught up. I've seen a lot of people be very successful with Puck offlane.
Yeah.
Like high rated players. Like there's like top 100 offlaners like Brax and MSS if he plays offlane because he's a Puck player. Like these people are picking Puck and doing really well with it, and nobody's picking Puck.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing Nature's Prophet being picked a decent amount now.
That's a decent one too. Yeah, that's a decent one.
All right, next question.
Okay. My brother-in-law just messaged me on Steam, and I thought he was gonna say you talked about the chicken hearts, but he's just in a game, and he said literally got tri-laned in a legend game when I picked Lycan. He's just complaining about Dota.
Standard.
That sounds about right. He said he played with you the other day, by the way, Donnie.
Nice.
He said you were really mad.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I told him, I was like, man, he's messaging me on Discord. He's losing his mind in pubs right now. He's lost like 23 in a row. It happens.
What are your thoughts on Troll?
What are your thoughts on Troll?
I think that Troll's. I hate Troll. I think Troll's like one of the most boring heroes in the game.
I think he's boring too.
I think he's he's really good against melee offlaners, or like people pick kind of like abusive melee offlaners like a Legion or like I don't know, a Sven or Nightstalker or something like that, Ursa even. And Troll kind of owns those because he just can blind them basically like every time they try to trade with him. And then he just goes to range for him and hits them like 40 times as they run away.
It's true. I don't think Troll is quite as good as the current set of carries that are being picked.
Agreed.
But he's on like He's on like the B tier in my opinion. He's on the next tier down.
Yeah,
If they're all bad, you'll probably see trolls getting picked.
I know there's a decent amount of pros that really like him, like Crit, for example, who's like #1 MMR in Europe or something like that, really likes Troll, and various other people really like Troll. But I every time I see Troll in a pro match, it just feels like he does nothing. He just like kind of farms for a while, and then he gets kited in like 2 straight fights, and the game's over.
Troll's pretty susceptible to like burst and magic damage. Like,
yeah,
if you have like a Bat Rider versus Troll, he'll utterly destroy him. A Puck versus Troll, a Lion versus Troll, God, Pugna versus Troll. These heroes just crush him. But Troll is like, I think I heard, maybe it was Fogged or something say it, but basically, like, if you have a Troll picker, you have a Troll picker. It's more of a specialty pick. It's one of those heroes that if somebody really wants to play it, you just give it to them and they'll dominate the whole game. Like, I think it's basically based on the fact that at every point in the game, mid game, laning stage, late game, there's a high skill cap to what you can do on Troll. Like, you can dominate the lane if you're good enough. You can dominate the mid game if you're good enough, because you can take Roche, you can take towers, you can farm, you can fight. There's a lot that you can potentially do on the hero. It's just that it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard. It's not super easy to execute.
He's almost a little bit like
at a high level.
He's almost a little bit like anti-mage in that sense, because it's like he farms pretty well. He has the ability to push towers extremely quickly. He can take Roche. He can do like all these different things that you want a carry to do, or that you want a single hero to be able to do in Dota. But then if you like don't take the fight at the right time, around the right power spike, or you don't even approach the fight at like the correct angle and kill the correct hero first, then you can just get completely owned, because you just like you do one thing really well, which is do single target really quick hardcore damage and man fight basically anybody in the game. But other than that, you know, it's like pretty hard to figure out what you're supposed to be doing on that hero.
I think that's a pretty accurate description of Troll, and I think what you said is like true at any point in the game. Like, that same thing occurs in the laning stage. Like, you can get totally dumpstered if you're bad, but you can totally dumpster if you're good, versus like almost anything. But you really have to go at it at the right angle. These little precise movements like matter. If you feed a couple of times on Troll, the hero can feel completely useless at any point in the game. But once again, the skill cap is high, so I think if you're good at Troll, like, all the more power to you, you know?
Right. Jake Sakura says, would you say the value of a carry at the end of the game is only defined on how much damage they do, or are there other factors besides hero damage that are important?
God no. Carry is like damage is like, carry's one of the less, like, carry should arguably have the least damage. Maybe only the 5 roll should be below them, because the carry should only really be doing damage on super specific timings, where it's like Arteezy gets huge on Terrorblade, he gets a BKB, his damage is literally 2,000, everybody else has over 10,000. He takes one fight, does 6,000 damage, they win the game, but he ends the game at 8,000 damage, versus heroes who have 10,000 plus damage, but he still was the reason they won that game, because he chose the perfect time to fight, he fought well, he farmed really well up until that point. Like, that's the problem with carry and judging it based on damage, is that it's not a damage dealing role. Like, you should be pushing waves. That's one of your goals. You should be getting objectives. Like, your tower damage also matters.
Tower damage should be very high on most carries.
Yeah, for the most part. Your CS, the amount of farm that you've been able to get, I would say, like, one of the best metrics for carry is how little you've died.
Yeah.
Like, over any other role, like, a carry should have, you know, up like 0 to 5 deaths in a long game, ideally, because like the whole reason that the carry is in that role is because everybody else is making space for them. So if you're dying after somebody's making that space for you, there's nobody else for you to be making space for. Most of the time, if you're dying while taking space, that's very game losing.
Yeah.
So like, not dying at all, having low deaths, at the very least having no deaths while your team is creating space for you. If you die while your team is creating space for you, it's utterly game losing. I've seen that a few times where, like, basically in the Divine games that I've played, we'll be fighting the enemy team on the other side of the map. We'll be dying, they'll be dying, and then one time the carry dies solo to somebody when we're making space for them, and like the whole game just snowballs out of control because that was the guy we were making space for. Like, dying solo when you're the one that's supposed to be taking the free farm, when the whole map is being orchestrated such that you can farm safely in an area, it's very bad because there's so much being committed to it, and then you die, and then it's like that was all for nothing. You know what I mean? Whereas at least if you die on an offlaner, it's like it's for something. My carry is farming. Whereas for a carry, there's no fallback.
Yeah.
I've seen so many times games snowball out of control because the carries seem to think that them dying is equivalent to the offlaner dying. It's like, you should be playing offlane, dude. Like, you're not a carry player if you think your death is so much, and then people think that that's like just an offlaner trying to justify them dying. It's like, no. You really, like, your life is so much more valuable. You can't just go dying on a Slark or a Spectre or whatever, because it takes pressure off the enemy team where they're like, all right, this guy's not farmed. This guy's not strong. We don't have to worry about him. Whole game blows wide open.
Yeah, remember when there was that period of time, it was like maybe it's just one tournament, maybe it's like a couple tournament stretch where Miracle literally died. Like, he was like 55-1 KDA or something like that. And surprise, surprise, Liquid won all of those tournaments, or that tournament, whichever it was. I just remember people going on and on and on about how Miracle literally died like once for an entire tournament. And I mean, that's literally what the carry is supposed to do. I agree. I think KDA, tower damage, GPM is pretty important, but it's not the most important thing. And I would say, to be honest, like, your timing around your game-winning item, I think, is...
Yeah, you're... Like, if you go and you die when you are supposed to have a power spike, or when you're supposed to be just free farming to one person, like, those deaths matter so much more. And I guess that's why deaths matter so much on carry, because other than that, you should never be dying, because other than that, you're not going to be in a situation where you can die, because you're just free farming.
Or you should be. You should be. A lot of people find themselves being like drawn like a magnet to a fight because their team is crying about how bad the game's going, despite them having free farm on the carry.
Dude, I'm telling you, I just I had to tell a guy there was a faceless void, and he was farming against a solo Ursa, and we were destroying them in a tri-lane versus tri-lane, and he was crying where he was losing to the Ursa, and I was just like, no, Witch Doctor, you do not go to that lane. He should be pulling the creep wave. And they both got really mad at me. And it's just like, dude, I'm just like, we would essentially be sacrificing this lane top, this tri-lane versus tri-lane, which we're already winning. And then you wouldn't go and help the Void versus the Ursa. It would be the same thing happening. It would just be losing. So of course I'm going to like veto that idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just not a good idea. You should almost never, I don't know why I got onto this tangent, but you should almost never like leave a winning lane to help somebody who's crying. It's always so bad.
Yeah.
Like, there's some way in a 1v1 or even in a 1v2 that somebody can be getting something. If you're winning 2 lanes in Dota and somebody is crying, or if you are getting more off the map and somebody is crying, tell them to go suck a fucking soother, because it is not okay to go help them when you're just already winning the game. They are just the person that is having they're essentially creating the space, and for some reason they feel like they should be taking space because that feels more fun to hear the cha-ching noise when you get gold. So don't listen to those people when they're crying.
It's like the intentionality video that I made. The reason for making a rotation to help another lane should never be because somebody was complaining. It should always be, I checked the minimap, I saw an opportunity to get like 2 or 3 return kills and maybe set up for a tower push afterwards. Like, that should be your actual thought process before you TP.
Yep, I gotta say, playing in like Divine and Ancient on Smurfs, and playing with like my brother-in-law and stuff, this shit happens way more the lower down you go, where people are more susceptible to like listening to people.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, like, people will die and then they'll say the dumbest thing as an excuse for why they died, and you want to trust them because like you're not playing their hero, but you can, like, I was watching my brother-in-law play, and there's this one time where like, okay, Terrorblade, Slardar, these are the 2 important heroes. They were sieging high ground after killing like 3 heroes. Slardar, for some reason, TP's standing in vision to base, and then they go on the Terrorblade and then kill him. And then the Slardar says, you should have bought a Manta style instead of a Sange and Yasha. And it's like, how does that have anything to do with you TPing away in vision while your Terrorblade is sieging? But that's the thing. If you listen to people, you will be hearing wrong things and assuming correctness in wrong things, because people, for the most part in Dota, if they're pressing enter, it's because they're making an excuse. They're saying something to deflect. They're saying something to make themselves feel better. So in general, it's best to just trust your own judgment and make plays once again, like Donnie said, with intentionality. But this was mind blowing to me. How I was watching and the Slardar TP'd away, and I was just like, dude, your Terrorblade's about to die, and it's his fault. He dies, and then Slardar says, "You should have bought a Manta." And it's like,
yeah, that's nothing to do with it.
That has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with it. Like, oh my god, you're the reason that they went on the Terrorblade because you TP'd away. They knew he had no Slardar to back him up. Even if you were there and they thought you TP'd away, you could stun and he could escape. It's like you didn't protect your carry when you guys were sieging, and you just like should have bought a Manta. And Terrorblade's gonna end that game and be like, oh man, I gotta buy Manta in more games.
This has been a very venty stream for both of us.
Whatever, man. I had to get it out.
Let's take like 3 or 4 more questions.
Okay.
All right. Red has been asking in chat for a little bit. Do you think there's merit to buying Aeon Disc on cores? If so, when? Excluding cores with big life-saving abilities like Brewmaster and his Primal Split.
I think when you're playing cores, where basically like the only way that they're going to kill you is by bursting you. So like on Pugna, Queen of Pain, Puck, I think these are great heroes to, because basically like the reason the Eon Disc works so well on them is because like if the enemy team is going on you, you're not going to turn and fight on these heroes. You run. So it doesn't matter that it negates your damage if the Eon Disc is on you. And then also like if you can get in the right position, the enemy team's not going to get you. Like that's how these heroes fight. They go from like the shadows, they come in at the right angle where the enemy team can't go on them. But if the enemy team does go on you, very, very seldom does any amount of tankiness save you. So that's why I think like on Pugna, on Queen of Pain, on basically mostly like int cores, it's a perfect item because you just want to protect against being bursted in a situation where you can't just do that with tanking up. Like there's no way you can tank up on a Pugna and survive enemy team jumping on you. And if you build into a BKB, then you're committing to a BKB on Pugna, which isn't good because you can't decrypt yourself. And because it still might not save you against physical damage and BKB piercing stuff because the hero is so squishy, but so important. Still so important. It's like important heroes that are squishy, basically.
Yeah, there's also like some sort of really late game scenarios where it's like you're against a void or something like that, where if you die, then the game is over. But if you don't die, then you win the game. Like in those scenarios, it's okay to maybe like throw an Aeon Disc in for a BKB and then swap it out after the Aeon Disc procs or something like that if you're trying to like tank a Chronosphere or an RP.
It's a really good late game item, especially against those like one-shot abilities that are just gonna like, if there's like a Hex OD who he'll just one-shot you, or a Batrider who will lasso you, or Enigma that will ulti you. Yeah, it's good, really good against those for sure. Even on like strength heroes.
All right. Brian Essig has been asking for a while, should I stop playing Position 5 Chaos Knight? I've been winning nonstop with it, but I just got to 2K.
Go ahead.
Dude, I mean, the thing is, if you find something that works in pubs, just run it with it until you start losing. And then the most important thing is if you find something that works in pubs and you win a lot with it, and then you start losing with it, don't just start blaming your team for those losses. Because that's like the biggest thing that happens, I think, to most people is they have a good run and then they start losing, and then they lose like 5 or 6 games, or it stops working, and they just assume that because they haven't changed what they're doing, that it must be their teammates. But the fact is, if you're winning a bunch of games, you're going to get to a higher skill bracket where people will punish your mistakes and the holes in your game a lot more. Maybe they'll counterpick you. Maybe they just won't play into your strengths because they recognize what's actually going on. And then at that point, you actually have to adapt and figure out a new strategy or how to play it better than you were before.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I just figured out a better way to play Pudge in the early game. And it's like I've played many hours of that hero for many years. And it's just like certain things won't work when people get smarter.
Yep.
It won't work anymore.
Yep. JCJ says, I spent 7,000 gold on support contribution in a game last week. It was an hour long. How do I determine if I'm hurting my team more than helping them by not taking farm on a position 5?
That's a pretty broad question. I would say that how do you determine that? I mean, you can use like the results based approach where it gets to the mark and you're like, well, fuck, I wish I had items.
I think it kind of needs to be a feeling based approach, like in the game.
Kind of does.
Because like, I mean, in one sense, if you don't buy wards, like if nobody else is buying wards, nobody else is buying detection, nobody else is buying smokes, and you don't have them, then you have to have them. But
well, actually, this is one thing that Newsham said to me, and he thinks that people overbuy wards. Like, there are actually points in Dota you don't need wards. There are points in Dota you don't need sentries. There are points in Dota you don't need to be making space as an offlaner. Like, it's just about recognizing in the game, okay, I've been doing my job as a support. I've been warding. I've been making space. I've been ganking. Is this necessary anymore? Like, if you get a Slardar and a Lifestealer who they get the blink on Slardar, and then they get the Radiance or Deso on Lifestealer, and they run around ganking, is it really useful for you to continue to show up to fights? Like, are you providing that much? If not, would you provide more with the Glimmer Cape? If so, then that's when you can farm. Like, you really need to pay attention in the game for when the torch has been passed, where heroes can essentially do the job that you're doing. And if you continue doing that job when other people are doing it instead of farming, then you're hurting your team. Because the reason that you're doing the supporting job in the early game is because nobody else can do it. But if you don't need wards, you don't need wards. Like, if you have a Night Stalker who's owning, or some hero that gives vision who's owning, and you guys really don't need wards, you don't need to buy out all the wards. You don't need to buy out all the sentries if there's somebody with a gem or with somebody with a necro book. Like, there are points in the game where the support job is done at least adequately by other heroes, or people don't need your supporting. If you have 3 cores that are utterly annihilating and they're immortal because the enemy team is so underfarmed they can't kill them, then what's the point in protecting them when they're already fine? And you can make an incorrect decision where it's like you assume that your team will be fine, somebody dies, game gets turned around, and that's the thing with Dota. Like, you're always going to make mistakes like that. There's no way to say whether or not something is a correct decision. It's more like you have to measure the odds. And I would say in that situation, when there are like 2 or 3 cores that are doing really well and they don't need any more help or supporting and they're just owning on their own, then that's when you start to be like, all right, this person's making space. I'm going to take some of the space because it's just redundant for me to go to fights. This Broodmother's 1v5ing already. Why am I trying to help the Broodmother do that? And like I said, the Brood might end up dying at some point, and then it's like, well, it's kind of your fault because you should have been there, but it's a risk reward thing. I would say that the risk is relatively low, and a lot of the time supports should actually farm, at least the small items.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to that thing that we talked about for a while about laning in a previous, I think it was in like the replay review last week, where we talked about when a support needs to leave the core in lane. And it's a very similar scenario where it's like, okay, if my core is not going to feed and he's able to zone, he's able to do my job and his job at the same time because I've supported him enough, then you need to leave the lane. Otherwise, you are hurting your team at that point because you're just, like you said, creating redundancy and basically just like leeching for no reason or being less efficient than you could be.
Yep.
Okay, you see any more good questions in chat?
I haven't been reading them. I've been watching dog meme videos on YouTube. You probably get those too because we share the same account.
Nice.
I'm just kidding, by the way. No, I don't see any questions. I don't see any good questions. They're all shitty questions.
Whoa, man, that's not very nice.
I'm just joking. But we've gone on for an hour, so I think it's high time we get the hell out of Dodge, you know.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I will say is, as a decent position 5, is it worth playing more impactful role in calibration? Some say it is better not to play position 5 on calibrations. I think you should play whatever role you enjoy the most and have the most impact in. Doesn't matter if it's a 5, doesn't matter if it's a 1. Whatever you feel like you have the most influence over games as, that should be the role that you play in your calibrations and in your ranked games if you have a goal of gaining MMR. So yeah, thanks guys for the questions. Thanks for tuning in and watching. You'll be able to see the full episode of this if you missed part of it or want to watch it again in a day or so here on YouTube. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Alchemy Answers. We'll also see you on Thursday for community replay review. If you are part of Patreon, we'll see you then with your replays. And if you're not part of Patreon, maybe you should be. All right, good luck, have fun in your games. See you later.